Ambassador Lisa Morgan stood tall as she walked into the Grand Galactic Council chambers. The massive dome ceiling sparkled with the light of 1,000 stars. Alien representatives from over 200 worlds sat in rising tiers, looking down at her, most watched with cold, judging eyes. She straightened her blue uniform and took a deep breath. After 75 years of humanity being part of the Council, today would be their last day. "The people of Earth have made their decision," she announced, her voice echoing through the silent chamber. "As of today, humanity formally withdraws from the Galactic Council." Gasps and angry murmurs spread through the alien representatives. Council Elder Zithar, a tall being with silver skin, leaned forward. "Ambassador Morgan, this is most unexpected and unwise. No species has ever left the Council voluntarily," Zithar said. Lisa nodded. "Perhaps that is part of the problem." Back on Earth's orbital station, Vigilant, Admiral John Hayes watched the transmission with a grim face. Around him, military officers and government officials stood in tense silence. The Admiral's gray eyes never left the screen as he listened to Lisa deliver the speech they had prepared together. "For 75 years, humanity has contributed to this council. We have shared our art, our science, our unique perspective. Yet at every turn, we have been denied equal standing," Lisa continued. "Last month's vote to deny us access to Class 5 defense technology, despite the attacks on our colonies, was the final proof that humanity will never be treated as equals here." The Council Elder Graltic, a insect-like being, slammed his appendage down. "Your species is too young, too unpredictable. The restrictions placed on humans are for the good of all." In his laboratory beneath the Rocky Mountains, Dr. Alan Wright watched the transmission while his team continued packing equipment. His life's work, a breakthrough in faster-than-light travel, sat in secure containers ready for transport. The Council had demanded his research under their technology-sharing protocols, but it would now leave with the rest of humanity. "We have discovered that several Council races have been secretly sabotaging our research facilities," Lisa revealed, causing another wave of shouts. "We have proof of these actions, which violate the very charter this Council claims to uphold." She held up a data crystal that glowed blue in her hand. "The evidence is here, but we no longer seek your judgment or approval. Earth has activated Protocol Exodus." On screens across Council space, humans were already moving. Ships departed from space stations, colonies prepared for evacuation, and military vessels formed protective formations. Admiral Hayes opened a secure channel to all Earth forces. "Protocol Exodus is now active. All ships proceed to your designated coordinates. Civilian transports have priority." Dr. Wright sealed the last container. "Everything's ready, sir. The new drive systems will give us the head start we need." Council Elder Zithar watched Lisa with an expression that, had anyone been able to read it, might have looked like respect. "You are making a grave mistake," warned another council member. "The economic sanctions alone will crush your world. No single species can survive without the Council's support." Lisa smiled for the first time. "We are prepared for hardship. Humanity has faced extinction before. We adapted then, and we will adapt now." As she spoke, unexpected messages began appearing on the Council's communication system. The representatives of the Ardani people stood up. "The Ardani will also withdraw from the Council," their ambassador announced. Then the Tellarites rose. "The Tellarites stand with humanity." The Vexicor, normally silent in Council matters, added their voice. "The Vexicor Federation will depart as well." Chaos erupted in the chamber. Lisa turned and walked toward the exit, her mission complete. Outside the chamber, she allowed herself a moment of worry. The path ahead would not be easy, but staying had become impossible. As she boarded her shuttle, a message from Admiral Hayes appeared on her personal device. "First wave of ships already clear of Council space. New coordinates sent. The future begins today." Lisa looked out at the gleaming Council spires one last time. "The future begins today," she repeated softly to herself. Fleet Commander Samuel Gordon stood on the bridge of the Defiant, watching stars streak by on the main view screen. 157 ships traveled in formation behind him. This was the largest group of human vessels ever assembled, carrying over 2 million people away from Council space. "Status report," he ordered. "All ships maintaining speed, sir," his first officer replied. "The Ardani and Tellarite vessels are keeping pace with us. The Vexcor ships are taking up defensive positions at our rear." Samuel nodded. 3 alien races had joined humanity's exodus, forming what they now called the Free Alliance. It was unexpected but welcome. Chief Engineer Olivia Parker worked deep inside the ship, her hands moving quickly over the new engine controls. The technology Dr. Wright had developed was working better than anyone had expected. The Council would never catch them now. "How's the core temperature?" she asked her team. "Holding steady at 87%, replied a young engineer. "These modifications you made to the cooling system are amazing." Olivia smiled. "Let's keep it that way. We got a long journey ahead." Aboard the Council flagship Justice, Admiral Vexthar slammed his fist on the control panel. "What do you mean you've lost them? Find those human ships immediately." His second-in-command trembled. "Sir, they're using some kind of drive technology we've never seen before. They're moving faster than our sensors can track." The Admiral growled. "The Council assured me humans didn't have this level of technology. They'd been hiding their advancements from us." 2 weeks later, the Free Alliance fleet arrived at their destination, an uncharted star system beyond the Council's mapping. 3 habitable planets orbited a stable yellow sun, with abundant resources on all of them. Governor William Chen stood on the bridge of the colony ship New Dawn, looking at the scans of the planet they would soon call New Horizon. "Begin landing procedures," he ordered. "Priority for agricultural and construction teams first." As shuttles began descending to the planet's surface, a message arrived from the Ardani ship. Kithal, leader of the Ardani people, requested an immediate meeting with human leadership. In the conference room of the Defiant, Commander Gordon, Governor Chen, and Chief Engineer Parker sat across from Kthal and representatives from the other alien races. Kthal, a tall being with 4 arms and iridescent skin, spoke first. "We did not follow you merely to escape the Council's restrictions. We came because humanity offers something the Council has lost: the will to grow, to risk, to adapt." Governor Chen nodded. "We welcome your people and your perspectives. The Free Alliance will not repeat the Council's mistakes." "There is more," said the Vexicor representative, a reptilian being named Sark. "We have brought something with us." He activated a hologram showing a massive space station. This ancient facility was discovered by Vexicor explorers a century ago. "We hid its existence from the Council. It contains technology beyond even Council understanding." Chief Engineer Parker leaned forward, her eyes wide with interest. "What kind of technology?" "We don't know its full potential," Sark admitted. "The Council forbids investigation of technologies they don't control. But with human ingenuity and our combined knowledge, perhaps we can unlock its secrets." As they spoke, on the edge of the system, sensors detected multiple ships appearing. Commander Gordon received the alert and tensed. "Council ships?" Governor Chen asked. "No," Commander Gordon replied, looking at the data. "Unknown configuration. They're not responding to hails." Chief Engineer Parker studied the readings. "Their energy signatures are like nothing I've ever seen." Kthal exchanged worried glances with the other alien representatives. "They've found us already." "Who has?" Commander Gordon demanded. The Tellarite representative spoke softly. "The real reason many of us left the Council. There is a threat the Council refuses to acknowledge, a danger they insist is merely legend." Commander Gordon looked at the approaching ships on the screen. "What kind of danger?" "The Council calls them myths," Kthal said. "We call them the Void Harvesters, and they've returned after 50,000 years of silence." General Kate Miller walked through the newly built training facility on New Horizon. The building was a mix of human and alien design, just like the soldiers training inside it. 3 months had passed since the arrival of the mysterious ships that Cathal called Void Harvesters. "Show me what happened again," Kate said to the alien scientist beside her. Miraleth, a slim blue-skinned being with large eyes, nodded and activated a hologram. It showed the 3 Void Harvester ships that had appeared at the edge of their system. Before the Alliance fleet could engage, the ships simply vanished. "They were scanning us," Miraleth explained, "learning about us. They will return with more ships." Kate nodded. "Then we need to be ready." On the other side of the colony, Dr. Eric Foster worked inside the ancient space station they now called Legacy. The massive structure had been moved to orbit New Horizon. After weeks of study, his team had finally gained access to its data systems. "I think I found something," he told his assistant. "These symbols match what we found in the station's central chamber." On his screen, strange symbols flowed like water. Gradually, the computer translated them into English. "The void returns, cycle of 50,000 years, consumption of all technology. Only the builders escaped." Dr. Foster stared at the words. "This is a warning. The station was built by a race trying to warn future civilizations about the void." At that moment, his communication device beeped. "Doctor, you need to come to the command center immediately." In the colony's command center, diplomat Ryan Scott sat at a large round table with representatives from 20 different worlds. Some had been part of the original Exodus, while others had arrived later, fleeing from the increasingly unstable Council. "The Council is calling our actions rebellion," a newly arrived alien said. "They have sent warships to several worlds suspected of sympathizing with us." Ryan nodded. "The Council is afraid. More races leave them every week." The door opened, and Dr. Foster hurried in, followed by General Miller and Miraleth. "We've decoded part of the Legacy Station's records," Dr. Foster announced. "The void is real, and it's happened before." He shared what they had learned. Every 50,000 years, entities they only called the void would sweep through the galaxy, consuming all advanced technology and any civilization that used it. The ancient race that built Legacy had tried to warn others, but disappeared themselves. "How do we fight something that eats technology?" someone asked. General Miller stepped forward. "The same way humans have always survived. We adapt." Over the next weeks, the Alliance worked together in ways the Council would never have allowed. Human engineers worked alongside alien scientists, combining their knowledge and approaches. On the training grounds, General Miller developed new fighting methods that didn't rely on advanced technology. "If these void creatures feed on tech, we learn to fight without it," she told her troops. Dr. Foster continued studying the Legacy Station with Miraleth. One day, they made another discovery. "Look at this," Miraleth said, pointing to a star map. "These markers show the path the void took in the last cycle." Dr. Foster studied it. "If they follow the same path this time, they will hit Council space first," Miraleth finished. In the command center, Ryan Scott received a surprising message. It was from Council Elder Zithar, sent through secret channels. "We need to speak," the message said. "The Council is experiencing incidents, ships disappearing, colonies going silent along our outer rim. The Council refuses to acknowledge what is happening." General Miller, Dr. Foster, and Ryan Scott brought the information to Commander Gordon. "So the void has already begun its harvest, starting with Council space," Commander Gordon said, "and the Council is too proud to admit it." "What do we do?" Ryan asked. "Do we warn them? Try to help?" General Miller frowned. "They wouldn't believe us anyway." Dr. Foster looked at the data again. "According to these calculations, we have maybe 3 months before the void reaches Council core worlds. 6 months before they find us." Commander Gordon stood up. "Then we have 6 months to prepare. The Council dismissed the void as myths and legends. We won't make the same mistake." As they spoke, long-range sensors at the edge of Alliance space detected unusual energy signatures. The void was moving faster than they had calculated, and it was heading straight for them. Captain Paul Bennett stared at the damaged control panel of his scout ship, Horizon Seeker. Emergency lights cast red shadows across the bridge. His crew worked quickly to restore power. "How bad is it?" he asked his engineer. "Bad, sir. Whatever that thing was, it drained almost all our systems. We're running on backup power only." 3 days earlier, Admiral Frank Cooper had sent 5 scout ships to investigate the energy signatures at the edge of Alliance space. Only the Horizon Seeker had returned, limping back with half its systems dead. "Send the data to headquarters," Paul ordered. "They need to know what we found." At Alliance headquarters on New Horizon, Admiral Cooper reviewed the footage from the scout ship. The images showed strange, dark shapes moving through space. They seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. When they touched technology, energy simply disappeared. "They're not ships," said Science Director Maria Reynolds, studying the readings. "They're more like living energy fields." "Living or not, they destroyed 4 of our scout ships," Admiral Cooper replied. "We need to find a way to fight them." The door opened, and a thin, gray-skinned alien entered. Jaltherix had once been a council historian before defecting to the Alliance. "I've seen this before," he said, looking at the images, in ancient council records that were locked away. Maria turned to him. "What did the records say?" "That the void entities are drawn to energy. The more advanced the technology, the more strongly they're attracted to it." Admiral Cooper frowned. "So our most powerful weapons would just make us bigger targets." While they discussed this problem, on the far side of the galaxy, the Galactic Council was in chaos. Reports came in hourly of colonies going silent. Council warships sent to investigate simply disappeared. Council Chairperson Grelvax finally called an emergency session. "We can no longer deny that something is attacking our worlds," he admitted to the assembled representatives. "The humans knew," said one representative. "That's why they left." Grelvax nodded slowly. "We have intercepted Alliance communications. They call this threat the Void, and they've been preparing for it. We should demand they share what they know." Another representative shouted. Elder Zithar stood up. "Demand. We are in no position to demand anything. We must request their help." Back on New Horizon, Maria Reynolds made a breakthrough. Studying the Legacy Station's data and the readings from the Horizon Seeker, she discovered something important. The Void entities have a weakness, she explained to Admiral Cooper and the Alliance leadership. They can absorb energy, but they have a limit. If overloaded, they become unstable. "So we could create a weapon that overloads them?" Admiral Cooper asked. "In theory, yes, but it would require massive amounts of energy and precise delivery." As they discussed the possibility, an urgent message arrived. A Council diplomatic vessel was requesting permission to enter Alliance space. Governor Chen joined the discussion. "Do we let them in?" Admiral Cooper thought for a moment. "Yes, we'll hear what they have to say." The Council vessel landed at New Horizon spaceport under heavy guard. Council Chairperson Grelvax himself emerged, along with a small delegation. In the colony's meeting hall, Grelvax looked uncomfortable faced with humans and the other races that had left the Council. "The Galactic Council formally requests the Alliance's assistance," Grelvax stated, his voice trained. "Our outer worlds are under attack by an unknown force. Millions have already died." Admiral Cooper nodded. "We know about the Void. We've been preparing for their arrival." "Then you will help us?" Grelvax asked. The Alliance leaders exchanged glances. After all the Council had done to hinder and control humanity, many were reluctant to offer aid. "Why should we help those who treated us as lesser beings?" asked Kithel of the Ardani. Admiral Cooper stood up. "Because this threat is bigger than old grudges. If the Void consumes the Council worlds, we'll be next." Maria Reynolds added, "We have a potential weapon design, but we need resources that exist only in Council space. Governor Chen looked around the room. We need to vote. Do we help the Council and return to the space we fled from? Or do we focus on protecting our own people? As they prepared to vote, long-range sensors detected a massive surge of void entities heading directly toward New Horizon. Their time for debate had just run out. President Laura Wilson stood at the window of the Emergency Command Center, watching evacuation ships launch into the night sky. New Horizon, humanity's first independent colony, was being abandoned just 8 months after its founding. "Status report," she asked, turning to face the room filled with both Alliance and Council officials. Joint Chief Nicole Davis looked up from her display. 60% of civilians evacuated. The defensive fleet is in position. The void entities had changed course suddenly, heading directly for New Horizon. There was no time to deploy Maria Reynolds' experimental weapon. Their only option was evacuation while a combined fleet tried to slow the enemy's advance. Council Chairperson Grell Vax watched the humans work with a mixture of surprise and respect. "Your people are remarkably organized," he said to President Wilson. "We've practiced evacuation drills since the day we landed," she replied. Humans prepare for the worst while hoping for the best. On the Legacy Station, now moved to a safer position, Engineer Daniel Martinez worked frantically on the anti-void weapon design. Maria Reynolds had theorized that a precisely calibrated energy pulse could overload the void entities, causing them to collapse. "The calculations need to be perfect," Daniel told his team. "A mix of humans and aliens from various species. Too little energy, and it won't affect them. Too much, and we could trigger a chain reaction that might spread to our own technology." A young Tellerate engineer looked up from her work. "The power source requirements are enormous. We would need access to at least 3 Council power stations to generate enough energy." Daniel nodded. "Then we better make sure there are still Council power stations left when we finish this design." In space, Admiral Frank Cooper commanded the largest mixed fleet ever assembled. Council ships flew alongside Alliance vessels, following battle plans created by human strategists. "Remember, minimal technology use," Frank reminded the fleet commanders. "Use projectile weapons when possible. Save energy weapons as a last resort." The strategy was unlike anything the Council forces had used before. Traditional Council doctrine relied on overwhelming technological superiority. Now they had to unlearn centuries of training. The first wave of void entities appeared on their sensors. Hundreds of dark, shifting forms moving through space like a swarm of hungry insects. "Hold positions," Frank ordered. "Let them come to us." The battle that followed tested both Alliance and Council forces. Whenever a ship used too much technology, void entities swarmed toward it. Several Council ships were lost in the first minutes because they relied too heavily on their advanced systems. Back on New Horizon, President Wilson received an urgent message from Engineer Martinez. "We've completed the weapon design," he reported, "but we need facilities on Centauri Prime to build it." Centauri Prime was the heart of Council space, the very place humanity had fled from months ago. President Wilson looked at Chairperson Grelvax. "We need access to your world." "Of course," he agreed immediately. "All Council resources are at your disposal." Joint Chief Davis frowned. "This could be a trap. Once we're back in Council space, what's to stop them from trying to control us again?" Grelvax bowed his head. "Your suspicion is understandable, but the Council has changed. Many who opposed equality for humans have seen their worlds consumed by the void." "Fine words," said Kethel of the Ardani, who had joined the meeting. "But words mean little now. We need guarantees." President Wilson made her decision. "We'll send a joint team. Alliance and Council members together. Engineer Martinez will lead the weapon development on Centauri Prime." As they finalized the plans, news arrived from the battle. Admiral Cooper's fleet had managed to slow the void advance, but at heavy cost. Nearly 30% of their ships were lost or critically damaged. "We need more time," Engineer Martinez warned. Building this weapon will take at least 2 weeks, even with full Council cooperation. President Wilson nodded grimly. Then we'll buy you that time, whatever the cost. On the main view screen, they watched as evacuation ships continued to launch while the last civilians boarded. New Horizon would soon be abandoned to the approaching void. We're leaving behind everything we built, Joint Chief Davis said quietly. Not everything, President Wilson replied. We're taking with us what truly matters, our people, our knowledge, and something the Council never fully understood. What's that? Asked Grelvax. Hope, she answered, and the stubborn human refusal to give up, no matter the odds. Colonel Steve Jackson stood on the observation deck of the Council homeworld Centauri Prime, watching alien ships arrive from all corners of the galaxy. For centuries, the massive blue-green planet had been the center of galactic politics. Now it was the last hope for survival. Colonel, the volunteer team is assembled, his assistant reported. Steve nodded and turned away from the window. 1 week had passed since New Horizon was evacuated. Admiral Cooper's fleet had slowed the void, but reports indicated the entities were learning, adapting to Alliance tactics. In the massive scientific complex below the capital city, engineer Daniel Martinez and Dr. Julia Harrison worked side by side with Council scientists. The weapon design was complete, but testing had revealed a critical flaw. The targeting system requires a direct connection to the void energy pattern, Julia explained to the gathered leaders. Someone needs to pilot the delivery vessel directly into the center of the void swarm. A suicide mission, Admiral George Phillips said quietly. Daniel nodded. We've tried to find another way, but there isn't time. President Wilson looked around the room. We need volunteers. Colonel Jackson was the first to step forward. I'll lead the mission, he said. Others joined him. A mix of humans and aliens, Alliance and Council members. 25 volunteers for a mission many believed none would return from. In another part of the complex, Council Elder Thexra met with President Wilson. The ancient alien was one of the oldest living beings in the galaxy, with skin like wrinkled parchment and eyes that had seen centuries pass. I have lived long enough to see the Council rise to greatness, Thexra said in a whispery voice, and now I may live to see it fall. It doesn't have to fall, President Wilson replied. It can change, adapt. Thexra's mouth curved in what might have been a smile. Like humans do. You know, I argued against restricting your species all those years ago. I saw something in humanity that reminded me of the Council's early days, before rules became more important than progress. It's not too late to remember those days, President Wilson said. On the front lines, Admiral Phillips received troubling news. The void entities had changed direction again. They were now heading straight for Centauri Prime. They're learning faster than we expected, he told his officers. They've somehow detected that we're building a weapon here. He opened a channel to Centauri Prime. We need to accelerate the timeline. The void will reach your position in less than 24 hours. In the weapon facility, Daniel and Julia worked without rest. We're not ready, Daniel said, looking at the half-assembled device. We need at least another day. Julia studied the latest data from the front. We don't have another day. Colonel Jackson and his volunteer team arrived at the facility. We're ready to deploy, he announced. Just give us something to deliver. Daniel looked at the components spread across the laboratory. We'll have to assemble it on the way. Can that even work? Julia asked. It has to, Daniel replied simply. As they loaded equipment onto the volunteer ships, alarms sounded throughout the complex. The void had broken through the defensive line. Admiral Phillips' fleet was in retreat, falling back to make a last stand at Centauri Prime. Council Elder Thexra summoned all representatives to an emergency session. When everyone had assembled, he did something unprecedented. The ancient alien slowly bowed to the human delegation. In all the history of the Council, we have never faced extinction, he said. Yet when that moment arrived, it was humanity. The species we tried to control and contain, that offered salvation. If we survive this day, The Council must change. Colonel Jackson's team launched their ships as the first void entities entered the Centauri system. 25 small vessels against a darkness that had consumed hundreds of worlds. Remember the plan, Steve told his pilots. Minimal technology until the final approach. We're the distraction that gives the main fleet time to regroup. Julia Harrison contacted him from the surface. Colonel, I'm coming with you. The weapon needs final calibrations that can only be done in proximity to the void. That wasn't the plan, Doctor, Steve replied. Plans change, she said. Humans adapt, remember. As his ship left Centauri Prime's atmosphere, Steve looked back at the beautiful planet below. So much history there, so many lives. All now depending on 25 ships and a weapon they weren't sure would work. Begin Operation Firebreak, he ordered his team. Let's show the void what humans can do. Grand Admiral Susan Mitchell watched the battle unfold from the command ship Unity. The massive vessel, built through combined Alliance and Council technology, served as the coordination center for the final defense of Centauri Prime. Status of Colonel Jackson's team, she asked. They've entered the outer edge of the void swarm, her officer replied. Minimal communications to avoid detection. On the bridge display, tiny lights representing Colonel Jackson's ships moved slowly toward the center of the dark mass that was the void. The main fleet, positioned in a protective ring around Centauri Prime, waited for their signal. Aboard his small ship, Colonel Steve Jackson guided the vessel deeper into the void. Around him, strange dark shapes moved like living shadows. The ship's systems flickered as the entities drained small amounts of power. Power levels at 60%, his pilot reported. In the rear compartment, Dr. Julia Harrison made final adjustments to the weapon. Almost ready, she said through the intercom. The energy readings are stronger than we expected. I can get a clean lock on their pattern. Steve nodded. All ships, maintain formation. Remember, we need to reach the center point before they realize what we're doing. The plan was dangerous but simple. The volunteer ships would penetrate deep into the void swarm, positioning the weapon at its heart. Once activated, the weapon would create an energy overload that would spread through the linked void entities. On Centauri Prime, in the newly established Confederation Hall, Representative Jason Garcia finalized the document that would change galactic society forever. Former council leader Draxur stood beside him, along with delegates from over 100 worlds. Is it ready? President Wilson asked, entering the room. Jason nodded. The new Galactic Confederation Charter, equal representation for all member species, shared technology development, mutual defense obligations, everything we fought for. And the Council agrees to this, she asked Draxur. The alien bowed slightly. What remains of the Council? Yes, this crisis has shown us the folly of our old ways. Survival requires adaptation. Their conversation was interrupted by an alert. In space, the void had detected the weapon. Colonel Jackson's team came under attack as dark entities swarmed their ships. They know, he shouted. All ships, full power to engines, head for the center point. 3 volunteer ships disappeared in seconds, consumed by the void. The remaining vessels pushed forward, engines straining. We're losing power too quickly, Dr. Harrison reported. We won't make it to the target zone. Steve made a quick decision. All ships except mine, pull back. We'll go alone. That's not enough, Julia argued. You need at least 3 ships to properly position the weapon. Then we'll improvise, Steve replied. Humanity's specialty. On the command ship, Grand Admiral Mitchell received the message. Colonel Jackson is continuing alone. The rest of the team is falling back. She opened a channel to all ships. This is the moment everything changes. All ships prepare for full engagement. When Colonel Jackson activates the weapon, we hit them with everything we have. Steve's ship reached the center of the void swarm. Power levels dropped rapidly as the entities surrounded them. Power at 15%, the pilot warned. Life support failing. In the weapon bay, Julia made a final connection. It's ready, but we don't have enough power left to activate it. Steve looked at his crew. Then we used the ship itself. Divert all remaining power, including life support, to the weapon. That will kill us, someone said. Maybe, Steve replied, but it will save billions. Do it. As the last power was diverted, the weapon began to glow. Steve sent a final message to the fleet. Weapon active. Strike now. Grand Admiral Mitchell gave the order. All ships, fire. The combined fleet unleashed every weapon they had. Energy beams, missiles, and projectiles streaked toward the void swarm just as Colonel Jackson's weapon activated. At the heart of the void, a bright point of light appeared. It expanded rapidly, spreading through the dark entities like fire through dry grass. The void creatures began to break apart, their energy patterns disrupted by the weapon. On Centauri Prime, people watched the sky as darkness turned to light. The void entities dissolved, leaving behind only scattered energy that quickly dispersed. They did it, President Wilson whispered. Communication channels exploded with reports. The void was retreating across the galaxy, breaking apart wherever it was encountered. Hours later, rescue ships reached the battle site. Among the debris, they found Colonel Jackson's ship. Against all odds, emergency systems had protected the crew in stasis. They were alive. 2 weeks later, representatives from over 500 worlds gathered in the Confederation Hall. Colonel Jackson, Dr. Harrison, and the surviving volunteers were honored as heroes. Representative Garcia and former council leader Draxure signed the new charter together. Today marks the beginning of the Galactic Confederation, Garcia announced. A union of equals, built on the understanding that diversity brings strength. That adaptation ensures survival. President Wilson stepped forward. When humanity abandoned the Galactic Council, everything changed. Not just for us, but for everyone. What seemed like an end became a beginning. Grand Admiral Mitchell added, "The void may return someday, but when it does, it will find a galaxy united and prepared." As the ceremony ended, a group of children entered the hall. Human children and alien youngsters, studying together in the new academy. They carried a symbol of the Confederation, a circle of stars with Earth and Centauri Prime at its center. The future had begun.